Hey, so my name is Jacob Meggett. I'll be talking about how when you're debugging stuff, it's mostly logical and stuff like that.
My name is Bryce, and I'm going to be discussing how you can use print statements when debugging your code.
So for my part of the project, I'll be talking about how debugging is logical, just like a math problem. If you got it wrong, you got it wrong. So when you debug logically, you're not guessing what went wrong. You're tracing your code back step by step to figure out the problem, figure out what went wrong. Sharing. So in this example, you got simple number stuff, super simple. So it adds up the five numbers in the array. That's its adding thing. Then it just prints it. Simple, super simple. But when it runs, nothing comes out. Now, why is that? That's the whole point of debugging. So whilst you're looking at it, you realize, well, it wants five numbers. Does it have five numbers? Yes, it has five numbers. So we're good. Total, zero. Gotta have that in the beginning. So we're good on that. Then you get down to here. So, uh, in my loop, it says less than or equal to five. So it's trying to add a sixth number that doesn't exist. So syntax is fine. The computer does exactly what I told it to do, but my logic was just off by one. So if you get rid of the equal sign, just make it I is less than five, it will, one second, there it is. If I run it, it'll say my total is 15, which works perfectly. So gotta watch out for your loops because very that's a section that happens very often. For my second example, I want to show how it can affect super simple stuff. So I'll run it first just to show you. So enter the current hour. Right now it's 5 p.m. So military time, 17 hours. It says good afternoon. That works. So good. But if I run it again and say it's noon, I put in noon. It says invalid hour. 12 is definitely a time of day. So, what's the problem? So you start looking through. If hours less than 0 and hours greater than 12, it prints good morning. So that works. Well, and if the hours less than 12 and hour greater than 12, and hours less than 18, and as well as if it is gr greater than 18, less than 24, it says good evening. Simple time. You got the whole scan thing. The only reason this is green is because it doesn't like me. Then you have the greet user, which runs the function, and you return to 0. So, super simple code. But for the second one, it says it's greater than 12 and less than 18. That excludes the 12 as well. Even in my first one, it just says it's less than 12. So in my first and second one, it excludes 12. So 12 just doesn't exist. So to fix that, you could do, once I change the condition to greater than or equal to, should oops, I do, oh man, I'm gonna change it. If I change it to this and run it, you can say 12, it'll say good afternoon, which is exactly what I wanted it to do. So In both of the examples I just showed you, uh, debugging isn't about luck. It's not about just throwing random things into simple areas. Sometimes that helps. Sometimes it works if you have a lot of functions, but sometimes it's more logic. When something goes wrong, you don't just be like, "Oh, it's this," and then too much. You got to think about it logically because in coding, things happen in you have an order of operations. You've got your int main, it initializes the stuff, and then it does everything from there. So debugging logically is really just solving a puzzle, one single step at a time.
Hello, my name is Bryce, and this is the first example I have of how I used print statements to help me debug my code. This is the sixth lab, problem one, uh, only problem of lab 6-1. And the main area of where I used it is in the making of my make change function. So here I ran into some issues with the difference between paid and due being off by a couple hundredths. Because how I originally had it was I found the difference, and it should be a double or float. Uh, but I saved it as this, and then I multiplied it by 100 to get a integer value. This was off by a couple hundredths, which meant it's off by a little bit. And this print statement here is what told me what was going on, it was wrong. So then I found out if I multiplied them both by 100, it would just be an integer minus an integer, and that would be correct. Down here, I use more print statements to show me the remainder of the modulus within each step so that as the program is running, I know how much is left after each step, and I can kind of check to see if that's following about where they should be for the numbers. And down here, uh, this is both my answer and I kind of used it to debug, uh, because it would show the numbers and of each coin all in one place, whereas this showed the remainder number of coins. So if I were to go ahead and run this and enter in some values, uh, where it loads. It's not loading, but it would find the difference, have over here the values of the coins and such. The second example I have is so here is my second example that I wrote up for this uh, presentation, and it is where I'm defining two arrays and a function called print total, where it prints the total of each element within an array. And I have two examples of function calls with correct values and an example of a function call with an incorrect value. Uh, so down here, you can see that in my definition for print total, I have a print statement labeling itself as debug, and it gives the index the number of the index that we are into the array and its value. And down here, we also have the total indexes that the function has done. And if we were to run this, it could help us find our mistake in this particular example by seeing that here are each of the values and each of the indexes. And In this case, I should have subtracted one, but it tells us that our total amount of indexes is not where it should be if we look at our arrays. So if in this example, let's say we are working on a project and values aren't working out, we could look at our debug print statements and see that this might be a cause for an incorrect total or whatever it might be.
So in conclusion, debugging isn't just about fixing the error. Well, it's mostly about fixing the errors. It's mostly about understanding how and why the code seems to be doing what it does. So each of us used a different technique, but they mostly all come down to the same thing, saying patient, logical, and curious.
My name is Bryce, and my conclusion is that you can use print statements to help work your way through your program, find out how values might change in ways that you might not expect, and help you pinpoint where your errors might be.